So I'm going to introduce you to one of my favorite, favorite documents that we have in Tennessee. And I'm so glad that they made this. It's 4 pages of great stuff. So this is the notification form, and hopefully you're going to be using it for all sorts of things. It has all the language in here for so many different topics that you can use from the buyer or from the seller. So let's go through the notification. It'll take a while, but this will teach you how to use one properly and is great. Anyway, just trust me. So this is the notification. This is either from the buyer to the seller or from the seller to the buyer. You choose. You have to put the address here. This is for the property located at blank with a binding agreement date of blank or offer date of blank. Usually, Tennessee, we always use the binding agreement date. And this is the first 2 pages are from the buyer to the seller. So let's say you have to let them know at 3 days that your buyer has made a loan application. And so you can check this box. Buyer has made the loan application and is notifying the seller and the seller's agent of the name and contact information of the lender. And you're going to put that contact information there. And number 2, buyer has waived financial contingency and is furnishing proof of available funds in the following manner. Boom, document attached. This is, let's say you went under contract and you said you were going to get a loan, but now the buyer says, you know what, I'm just going to take it out of my 401k, or I'm just going to pay for it in cash. And so this is to let them know that you are no longer going to need a loan. So that's what you would click that one for. Number 3, buyer has waived financial contingency and is providing the seller with the name and telephone number of the appraiser who shall conduct the appraisal on the property. So the buyer is paying with cash, but he wants an appraisal. And so this is how you let them know this is the appraiser that we've hired, because normally the lender will hire the appraiser. But in this instance, because there's no lender, you've waived the financial contingency, but you are getting it appraised. The buyer is going to be hiring the appraiser. So this is how we're going to let them know who the appraiser is that's going to be calling the listing agent. Number 4, appraised value did not equal or exceed the purchase price. Buyer shall notify the seller of decision to terminate the agreement or waive contingency within 3 days per terms stated in the purchase and sale. This isn't saying we want out of the contract at this time. This is saying, look, we have a problem. The appraised value did not come in. We have 3 days to think about what our options are, and we're letting you know that the appraised value didn't meet, and we have these 3 days. Buyer shall notify seller of decision to terminate agreement or waive contingency within 3 days per the terms in the purchase and sale. So we're not terminating the contract yet, but we're letting them know that the appraisal doesn't look good. Number 5, appraised value did not equal or exceed the purchase price. Buyer waives the appraisal contingency in the purchase and sale. This one's letting them know appraisal didn't look good, it didn't come in, but buyer's going forward to make this sale anyway, and he's going to close, or she is going to waive the appraisal contingency. Number 6, appraised value did not equal or exceed the purchase price. Buyer is exercising the right to terminate and hereby request refund of the earnest money and trust money. So 4, 5, and 6 are all having to do with the appraisal and letting them know that the appraisal is not good, but here's what we're going to do about it. We're either going to waive it, we're going to think about it for 3 days, or we want out of the contract. And by the contract, you can exercise that right to get out of the contract if the appraisal doesn't come in. So you would click that box. You would also want to do a mutual release of the earnest money as well. Number 7, Having acted in good faith, buyer is unable to obtain financing and is exercising the right to terminate and hereby request refund of the earnest and trust money. Now, if your buyer has to click number 7, they didn't qualify for the loan. It might be the day before closing when you find out that we're not clear to close. It might be pretty soon on, but because this usually happens pretty far into the time, you may and the listing agent is going to request that you have a letter from the lender saying the buyer did not qualify. That's easy to get from the lender if the buyer didn't qualify, but they're going to want proof that the lender said, no, you cannot get this loan. And that'll have the reasoning on it. You bought a new car. Hopefully they didn't buy a new car, but that could be a reason. Which would not be acting in good faith, to be honest. So anyway, that's number 7. Number 8, buyer has changed lenders and is notifying the seller that the new lender's name and contact information is here. So this saves you from having to fill out a whole amendment to the purchase and sale. You're just going to click number 8. Hey, our buyer has found a new lender. We're going with a new lender. And you really need to let the listing agent and the seller know that you have a new lender, because if you don't, they're probably still going back to the old lender asking if the appraisal has been requested, if the loan has been submitted, all of those things that fall within the timeline that the buyer has agreed to. So it's really good to let the seller know that you've changed lenders if that's the case. Number 9, buyer warrants and represents the following. And you click whichever box pertains. Buyer has secured evidence of hazard insurance, which is due at 14 days, which shall be effective at closing and provided seller with the name of the hazard insurance company. You click buyer has notified lender of the intent to proceed and has available funds to close per signed loan estimate. Buyer has requested that the appraisal be ordered and affirms that the appraisal fee has been paid. Now, as a TC, this is something that I always do for my buyer and seller agents, is I am sending an email at 14 days. Has the appraisal been ordered? Do you have the intent to proceed? And has hazard insurance been covered? And usually the lender will email back and just say yes. And I'll pretty much just email this information. I don't usually give the hazard insurance company's name, but this is the place that if you want to do it with a notification, this is the place that you would do that. If you're the buyer's agent or the seller's agent, always make sure that the appraisal's been ordered, because if it hasn't been ordered, it could delay closing. So that's pretty important, but you don't have to put that on a notification, but it's already there. So it's kind of easy just to click it and have your buyer sign it. Number 10, title examination, closing or loan survey pursuant to Tennessee Boundary Line Survey or other information has disclosed the following material defects. Let's say that title came back and said, did you know that you have an encroachment on this property? Like, no, we didn't know that there was another driveway. We didn't know that the shed from, or the driveway or the fence from the neighbor is 6 inches over on our side. You didn't know any of that. So you're going to make sure that the sellers know that this is what title examination has found. You're going to put what it is here and let them know. And sometimes that can stop the whole contract from going through to closing. It says, and buyer is requiring seller to remedy such defects prior to closing date. Documentation attached. You would attach the survey, you would attach the letter or the title work, whatever you have, onto that portion of the notification. Number 11, material defects disclosed from title examination, closing or loan survey pursuant to Tennessee Code, boundary line survey, or any other information have not been remedied prior to closing date or any extension thereof, resulting in the termination of the purchase and sale agreement. Buyer is hereby requesting refund of earnest money. This may be something that a seller has no way to remedy before closing date unless you really extend closing date. What if the seller is just now finding out that a new survey produced results that a neighbor's fence is a foot over on the line, or a neighbor's driveway is over on their property, something that can't be just fixed pretty quickly? This is letting the seller know that, look, it hasn't been fixed by the time that you said it was going to be fixed, and so we are exercising our right to get out of the contract and get our money back. And you would, obviously have to give documentation as well. Number 12, buyer has made any and all inspections available under the inspections section of the purchase and sale and wants to terminate. So you're going to list the reasons that came off the inspection. There was moisture here, there got wood rot, there was foundation problem, whatever is the problem, you're going to list that there. Sometimes, most of the time, the listing agent will come back and they'll say, hey, can you snippet the portions out of the inspection report that pertain to the things that you objected to, and just send me that so I can get it to the seller, just kind of as proof that these things were in the inspection report. But sometimes the listing agent won't want those at all. So just make sure before you send those that they want to see portions of the inspection report that pertain to those objections. Number 13, buyer has made any and all inspections available under the inspection section and accepts the property as is. So number 13 is big for, let's say you have a buyer, you have an inspection. There are 3 things that your buyer wants fixed. And so you get your repair replace proposal, you put those 3 things in your proposal and you send it to the seller's agent. And the seller's agent comes back and says, you know what, why don't we give you $3,000 instead of fixing these 3 things? Like the sellers just don't want to deal with it. We're going to give you money in lieu of the repairs. And you say, yes, that works for us. In that case, you're not going to need a repair replace amendment because there's nothing that's being repaired or replaced. All you have is money in lieu of. So what you're going to do is you're going to hit number 13. Buyer has made all the inspections and accepts the property as is. But you're also going to do a regular amendment that says a credit of $3,000. The seller is giving a credit of $3,000. You're not going to say in lieu of repairs. You're just going to say seller is to give $3,000 in credit towards closing cost or at closing, however your broker wants you to phrase that. So there are no repairs, and so the lender doesn't get a in lieu of repairs. The buyer is accepting the property as is, but there's money either coming off the sales price or there's money being given at closing, which would mean an amendment in RF 653 along with this notification accepting as is. I probably am going to do a video just on this. Please look for that video because it's going to explain a little bit more, but you will not need a repair replace amendment if they're accepting as is. Number 14, buyer waives any and all inspection contingencies available in the inspection section, except for the final inspection. So even though they waive inspections, they still get a final inspection. But let's say they've decided not to have an inspection. Their Uncle Joe went in and he's a contractor and he looked in, everything looks good to him. Your buyer wants to just hurry up and close on the property, you can click that says they waive all the inspections except for the final inspection. And that would change the purchase and sale. If they had an inspection and now they're giving the notification to say that they waive the inspections, that would take the inspection off of purchase and sale and change it. Number 15, pursuant to the first right of refusal addendum, buyer has listed their home with a licensed real estate broker and the home is advertised in the MLS. See proof of listing attached to this form. So if in the special stipulations, it said the buyer, this offer is contingent upon the sale of their current home. They will have their current home on the market within 7 days. This is to let them know, hey, we have done everything to get this house on the market. It is on the market. Here's the MLS to prove it's on the market, so that they know that the buyer's doing what they promised to do. Doesn't mean the contingency's gone to have it under contract or sold. It just means that they've done what they said they're going to do, and they've put it on the MLS. 16, buyer withdraws all offers or counter offers. This can be used, even if you're not under contract yet. This can be used if you've written a counter offer and then all of a sudden the house that you have been in love with for 4 years comes on the market and you want to buy that house, or this seller has multiple offers, but this one just came on the market and you want to withdraw your offer. This is how you would do it. To tell the seller this is no longer in play, disregard that last counter offer, disregard our offer. And so it's going to be signed by the buyer that they withdraw all offers and counter offers. Number 17, buyer is exercising buyer's right to terminate this agreement due to seller's failure to complete agreed upon repairs by the completion of repairs deadline or the final inspection. In the event no completion of repairs deadline was established, this notification hereby serves as notice of distribution of earnest money and trust money to the buyer. When we go through the repair replace amendment, and you have the days before closing that everything is supposed to be completed, that is a dead day. That day does not change. And if the seller has not completed those repairs by that date, the buyer has every right to get out of the contract and get their earnest money back. And number 17 is the buyer saying, look, we agreed that everything was going to be completed. It's not completed. We want out of the contract. And that kind of sucks for the seller, but they agreed to it. Number 18, buyer has assigned buyer's equitable interest in property to a subsequent purchaser. The effective date of the assignment is blank. Now, if this is a non-assignable offer, then they can't do this. But if you have an assignable contingent offer, then they can assign it. You will see wholesalers doing this. Some flippers will do this. So this is kind of a tricky one, and I would get broker opinion on this, whether it was assignable to somebody else or not. 19, other. This can be used for anything. Other. Buyer would like to measure blinds. Buyer's decorator is going to be in town and would like to go by the house. Like just anything that isn't covered already in the notification. That you would want to notify them of. It can be buyer is satisfied with the survey received. Seller request hot tub be cleaned. I mean, just anything. So starting on page 3, I believe, These are the notifications from the seller to the buyer. Number 20, this is the seller's written demand for buyer to provide the name and contact information of the lender, and that buyer has instructed lender to order and has paid for the credit report. So you think, why would they need to do that? This is so important. I've had to send this so many times because you have a buyer that's shopping for lenders and it's been 3 days and we don't know that the loan has been submitted yet. And the importance of the loan not being submitted means if you're delaying in that time, then closing might get delayed. And that's why you have those days that, within 3 days, this, within 7 days, this. So this is the seller saying, I'm asking you, has the loan been submitted? The credit report been paid for? Who's your lender? Number 21, seller has made written demand for buyer to provide the name and contact information of the lender and that the buyer has instructed lender to order and has paid for credit report and buyer failed to do so within 2 days, thereby terminating the agreement. Let's say you send it with number 20 checked and 2 days they haven't gotten back to you with who their lender is and that the buyer is doing the right thing. Here's the seller saying, look, I gave you 2 days to tell us who the lender is. We're not holding this house hostage on pending anymore. We're now terminating the agreement as by the purchase and sale says that we can do, getting the house back on active status because the buyer did not give you what you demanded and you gave them 2 days. Number 22. This is seller's written demand for buyer to provide supporting documentation regarding loan denial. Let's say you got a notification that said buyer's terminating because he got turned down for his loan, but they didn't give you the loan documentation. This is where you're going to click that and say, give us the letter from the lender that says you're being denied the loan, because if they can't, and they're just lying to you about them being denied a loan, then the seller may have the right to take the earnest money. Number 23. This is seller's written request for buyer to provide proof of available funds as required in transactions wherein buyer has waived buyer's financial contingency. If you'll look on your purchase and sale, where it says buyer waives all financial contingencies, that means they're paying in cash and they are required to show you that they have that cash in available funds to finish the closing. And as a buyer's agent, you're going to black out any kind of account numbers or anything like that, but you need their name and you need available funds to exceed the amount of the sales price. So this is the written request for them to give you those available funds, a proof of available funds. Number 24. This is written demand for buyer to provide proof of available funds as required in transactions wherein buyer has waived a buyer financial contingency. However, buyer failed to do so within 2 days, thereby terminating the agreement. So this is again saying, look, as the seller, we asked you for this. You said you were going to give it to us and agreed in the purchase and sale. You didn't do that. We asked for it and gave you 2 days. You still didn't give it to us. So we are thereby terminating this agreement. Number 25. This is seller's written demand for the name and telephone number of the appraiser and proof that the appraisal has been ordered in a transaction which buyer has waived financial contingency. So this is on the purchase and sale. It says we're paying with cash, but we want the appraisal. This is saying we're asking for the appraiser's name. You said it was cash. You said you wanted an appraisal. Now, where's that appraisal? And who is the appraiser? And the reason that you would do this is because if you don't get the appraiser out there within a certain amount of time, you're not going to get the appraisal back within a certain amount of time. Therefore, you would have to extend closing. So the seller is saying, look, for us to stay on our timeline that we agreed to, we need to have that appraiser out here so we can get it back, so we can close on time. Number 26, seller has made written demand of the appraiser and proof that the appraisal was ordered, but the buyer didn't do it. So within 2 days, thereby terminating this agreement. This is just like the last three. First we asked for it, you didn't give it to us, so now we're terminating the agreement. See, it's so much easier to click a little box than it is to write all that out on an amendment. I love Tennessee lawyers for doing this because they've done a great job. Number 27. This is seller's written request that buyer provides supporting documentation showing appraised value did not equal or exceed the agreed upon purchase price. So what if you are the seller's agent and the buyer's agent sends you an email and says, hey, we're terminating this agreement because it didn't appraise. And that's all you get. Well, you're owed more than that. So this is telling them, hey, give us the proof that it didn't appraise. That's all we're asking for is proof from the lender that this did not appraise. And the lender coughs up a letter and gives it to you. So this is just you asking for that. Number 28. This is seller's written demand for buyer to provide the following warranties and representations. Buyer has secured evidence of hazard insurance which shall be effective at closing. Buyer has notified lender of intent to proceed. Buyer has requested that the appraisal be ordered and affirms that the appraisal fee has been paid. So those are just the three things that we ask for on day 14 to make sure that everything is still going smoothly. But this, instead of the buyer saying, hey, we've done all this is the seller saying, hey, have you done all this? 29, seller has made written demand for buyer to warrant and represent that buyer has secured evidence of hazard insurance and provide the name of insurance company. Buyer failed to do so, we're terminating. Same thing. We gave you 2 days, we're terminating. Number 30. Holder, this is the earnest money holder, whether it be the buyer's agent broker or the title company or the closing attorney. Holder has advised that the earnest money, trust money check, or other instrument has been dishonored. Buyer has failed to do in timely deliver immediately available funds following notice by holder. Oh, wait. I'm sorry, I've messed up. Number 30. Okay, I'm sorry. Number 30. Holder has advised that earnest money or other instrument has been dishonored or not timely received. They didn't get it when they were supposed to. Seller is hereby notifying buyer that buyer has 1 day, so not 2 days like the other. This is 1 day, 24 hours to deliver the earnest money in immediately available funds, which means not a check. It's immediately available funds. This happens when, let's say, on the purchase and sale, they had 5 days to deliver the earnest money. On the 5th day, you're asking the holder, whoever it is, title, escrow, attorney, buyer's agent, hey, today's the day that earnest money is due. Where's the receipt? And at the end of the day, they say, we don't have it. So this is where you say, we're now requesting in writing the earnest money. The next one says it was not given. So holder is exercising the right to terminate. And the next one, holder has advised that earnest money has not been timely received as required. Pursuant to earnest money, trust money paragraph, buyer has failed to timely deliver available funds following notice by holder. Seller is hereby exercising seller's right to terminate this agreement. So, hey, you in good faith, you did not deliver as a buyer. Seller is terminating. Period. Done. Over. Number 33, pursuant to buyer's first right of refusal addendum. This is seller's written demand for proof buyer has listed their home with a licensed real estate broker. And this is, if it was 7 days in the purchase and sale that they were supposed to have it, on the seventh day, you're asking for proof that their home has been listed. Just easy, just click that little box and you don't have to write it all out. Number 34, this is first right of refusal. Seller has made written demand for buyer to provide proof buyer has listed their home and advertised the home in a multiple service where applicable. However, buyer failed to do so within 1 day. Seller is hereby exercising the right to terminate. Number 35, for new construction only. Seller hereby notifies buyer that the improvements are substantially completed. Buyer shall cause to be conducted any inspection provided in the new construction purchase and sale. A lot of times with new construction, obviously you can't do an inspection within 3 days, within 7 days or 14 days. You have to wait until the building is complete before you can order the inspection. And this is just the seller saying, look, we're complete. Now you can do your inspection. And they're just letting you know that it's time to do the inspection. 36, for new construction only. Seller hereby notifies buyer of a delay caused by, let's just say they couldn't get sheetrock in time or the garage doors didn't get mailed to the builder. Whatever the delay is, this is now going to be in the notification. 37. For backup agreement contingencies only, seller hereby notifies buyer that the primary agreement has been terminated and is null or void. Buyer's backup agreement has moved into primary position. So this is for backup offers. Let's say you are a listing agent, you have the seller, you got multiple offers, and they took the best offer. But they offered another offer, the backup position. So in case the first offer, let's say they didn't like the inspection, whatever happened, it gets terminated. You didn't have that backup offer, right? This is letting that backup offer know that this one in the first place is now been terminated and the backup offer is now active and the offer is good. So that's letting them know. And number 38, seller withdraws all offers and counteroffers. So this is kind of the same thing. Seller has counteroffered a buyer with an offer, and then all of a sudden they get this wonderful offer in. They can withdraw that counter offer before it has to be before this buyer has countered again or accepted. And then on 39, other, this can be anything. Seller is letting the buyer know that the pool liner is complete. I mean, just anything that they've talked about, anything. This is letting them to know that a window was broken and they fixed it. I mean, anything you want. Now, on the notification, it's not signed by both parties. It's only signed by the party that's sending the notification. It's only notifying. It's not agreeing to anything. So the notifying party is only going to be buyer or seller, not both. That's it.